Hello YouTube, this is Ready Set Exploit. We're going to be doing SeeTwo from TryHackMe, which is a challenge I created about, I think it released on October, November, and I just haven't had time to cover it, but I did want to actually do a write-up for it. Been busy with work, finally got some time now, and the challenge is we get a PCAP and we have to review the traffic, and we see that there's some funny stuff going on with the traffic. We find a binary that we have to reverse and decode the traffic that reveals the command and the output. So I had a lot of fun creating this challenge, and I do think it's a fun challenge to solve. So without further ado, I'll get started. So I already have the file downloaded here, my C2 folder. So you can see there's a file there. You could just unzip it. And now we have the PCAP. So let's go ahead and explore it, see what we find. So right away you see there's a lot of SSH like traffic, which we could just ignore, because unless the challenge is specifically about encrypting this traffic, you really don't want to be bothered with it. So we're gonna do is TCP port not equal to 22, and we get the rest, and it's just a bunch of TCP and some HTTP. And right away on packet 30 you should see something that stands out, so get requests. But before we do that, it's always a good idea to kind of look at the conversations, see what we're dealing with. So we go to, in case you missed it, statistics, conversations, like TCP is always a good spot, and you get an idea of the IP addresses here. You have this 0.2.71 and 0.2.64. So this is most likely our host, because it's a very high port connected to 1337, and port 80. So this is the victim, that's the attacker, right? So we have an idea we're dealing with port 80 HTTP and random port 1337. So we do see this HTTP request here, then a bunch of, this is probably the download. So let's go ahead and just kind of go to follow the TCP stream. There it is. This was done with wget, right? And it was to a Python server, right? And we see some, looks like base 64. We can look at that in a bit. I want to get familiar with the traffic. And then we see some communications here. This is, looks like it's kind of like incoming. This is most likely incoming and outgoing. So kind of like input and response. If you're familiar with, if you've done enough base 64 encoding on anything, you'll actually recognize these, and I'll show you what it is. So let's grab the very first one. And let's use our very handy tool called CyberChef. And this also looks like base 64. So let's do that. Oh, copy everything. And if you ever seen this lowercase I, V, B, O, R, you'll know right off the bat that was most likely a PNG, right? I already knew it was a PNG because I created it, but usually when you see these, you know you're dealing with an image. If you don't, you could do to think it's the text file type, and it tells you PNG, right? You can render it, render image, and we have a little milk carton there. So, very innocent. And look at this one. Another milk carton. Let's look at another one, see if it's any different. We have a little creature here. I think it's the same for each one. Yeah, okay. So whatever gets sent, the same image gets sent back. Pokeball. And we kind of get the idea there, right? So we'll close this for now. And there is something that's kind of peculiar, and you should have really caught it here on this one. If you're familiar with base 64, it always ends with this padding, right? So if we see here, the padding ends here, right? So this is one chunk, and then you see this very random string here, which could beat some 64, but usually base 64 does not have many repeated letters. Very rare. It has a few. See, like 3 here, 4 here, right? And then it starts again with another padding. It's the two padding sets that I think you should have caught, and you're like, oh, that's very peculiar, right? I should have kept that up. See, that was my fault. So if we look at it again, let's look at just this right here. See if the image still renders. It does. Let's just look at this small section. Doesn't. Let's remove the A's. Okay, it's something. Just garbage, right? So, you know, little things that, this is how I typically approach problems. Then you start seeing the pattern. You see there's A's here, right? And then there's some A's here. You can actually grab a few, and you kind of see that they're everywhere. So that's very interesting. But we just don't know what they are, right? And then we follow the stream again, some more of it, and then that's it, right? It's very short traffic. So this kind of challenge is like a very, you know, one part of a whole chain, because we don't know. And this was a very early challenge. I just wanted to keep it kind of focused, but typically, especially nowadays, I would have a whole scenario behind it. But in this case, I wanted to keep it just focused, because we don't know how that file got there, but that's neither here or there. If I were to recreate this one out today, I would definitely expand it more on it. But I wanted to keep it very focused on, you know, very particular, to teach a very particular tooling and investigation. So now that we have an idea what the traffic looks like, let's go ahead and download the binary. There's many ways. So the easiest way, because it's HTTP, is you go to File, Export Objects, HTTP, and you hit on it, you hit Save, and you save it, close. We're going to close this for now. I really got to start clearing that filter. We have the client, so let's go ahead and base64 decode this to a file. Let's get, and that is an ELF, so that is a Linux binary, right? So let's move this, call it client. So I don't want to make it executable, but let's do some basic checks on it. Strings always a good way to start. Couple of stuff here. This is normal, mem compare, glibc. Then it's usually a bunch of garbage. And then at the bottom, it gives us more information. First thing right here is pi data. That's not typical of a look at a regular, look at bash. See, this is GNU, user bin. So this other particular things. But if we look at the tail, there's that, right? So it looks similar, but there's, you definitely start seeing some consistencies here. Like, what's this, right? So that's usually your first clue. Every zip, we see a lot of C Python, right? So that's interesting, a lot of Python messaging. So you start to kind of get an idea of what this may be, right? You can look at, all right, is there any other Python related stuff? Lots, you see Python, not a lot, okay, load in Python library. So, okay, so that's could be, there's usually a clue, right? So let's see, reversing Python ELF binary. See what we get. And yeah, there's some stuff, right? First ELF, and let's see, unpacking Python reverse engineering. Let's see, maybe unpacking Python executables on Windows or Linux. I don't know if this is it, We'll see what else we can find. Reversing elf. Okay. How about just reversing Python binaries? Okay. So now I got AI overview. And you know, sometimes these are helpful. Oh, well, something went wrong. Let's see, packing. And this, okay, there we go. So this is, so it shows the program with Python, or we can run this package. We could use PyInstaller, right? So that's interesting. We could do encrypt. We don't know if that's PyInstaller. See, PyInstaller. And there we go. We have. So most likely this was created with PyInstaller. So if we go decrypt PyInstaller, and this actually tells us right here, we use PyInstructor and then uncompile, right? So if we do PyInstructor and uncompile 6, there we go. We have a GitHub here. All right, so it's appeared to extract the guns of a PyInstall generic executable. Okay. Simple. Uncompile 6, and we see this is a pip. Looks like there's a GitHub for it. Let's do that. Yeah. So it wants us to run the executable and then do this on the PYC file. So pretty straightforward. Okay. So if you didn't want to use strings, you can actually reverse this with Ghidra. It is very, very simple. And I'll show you just for the sake of, being thorough. So let's see. Let's clear this. GitHub. It's a very good reversing tool. It's my go-to, especially for elves. Go here, download this, and that downloads. Gonna go ahead and I think I got everything I need. It's gonna take a little bit to download, and actually I believe I need to install. So let's do update and sudo apt-get install default jdk. Gonna need that for Ghidra. Just want to let that run. It looks like it finished here. Close this. Gonna extract here. And I'm going to move this over here. Close this. And there we go. And installing. I'm gonna do Ghidra run. What I'm gonna do is actually when I keep track of both, Control Shift down, I'm gonna make a directory called binary. Yeah, there we go. Actually, no, I'm gonna call it project. And now that that's there, I'm gonna go to Ghidra run. And yes, I agree. Let it go. You need this. You could. I don't like to keep this. File, new project, non-ship project. What we want to do is go here, save it in project, give it a whatever name you want, like whatever. We're going to go to code browser. Minimize this, make this bigger. File, import file, SeeTwo, client. Select file to import. Click OK. We like to analyze it, yes. Now, if you wanted to reverse this binary this way, by all means go ahead. I don't believe it's an easy way to do this. I think PyInstaller does a very good job of creating this binary. But we could find it the same way for strings, and I think Ghidra does it a little bit better. So it's the same stuff, but right away you start seeing right, all this Python references, base library, see, then you see it, PyFig, PyStuff. So it's the same exact method you would have gotten there. Pi installer right here. It's not even that far down. Find it right there, and then you could kind of start from there. But you see, you kind of, there's an entry point here. Doesn't really lead you anywhere. You click on this function, nothing. You can look at there's so many functions here, easily lost. I don't think this is the way to go, if you ask me, right? So once that's done, I'm gonna close this, don't save it, close this, and now I'm gonna go back. So because we're dealing in Python, installing this will work fine on your system, but whenever I do Python related stuff, I tend to actually work out of Docker. So I'm gonna actually call this, I'm gonna start a new directory called work directory. I'm gonna copy the client there. I'm gonna start out of here. I wanna call this Docker run. The reason why I use Docker is for dependencies. So if you go to Docker run, let's see, Docker Python. It's a whole official image, and you get a particular whatever version that you want, right? And see, there's all these all the way to 3.14. You'll go all the way down 3.9, and it goes even lower than that. You kind of just play around with it. I'll show you exactly how to do it. So first, actually, I want PyInstructor. PyInstructor. Yeah. And I'm gonna go to the code here, and I'm going to download that. There we go. Got both. And now I'm gonna run sudo docker. I'm gonna do run interactive, remove once I'm done, v for verbose, my current directory, and I'm gonna take the current directory I have to the base directory, also call it work directory, and you'll see what that means. And I want Python. Oh, I don't have the version, so let's do Python client. See what if we have a particular version, and we do right at the bottom, 3.8. We could do 3.8. I'm gonna choose to go something around it, close. You know, maybe something before it. I think 3.8 will work, but I'm just gonna stick with 3.68. Actually, let's do it. Let's see, 3.8. If it doesn't work, we exit, we try again. Now, that's usually what I sometimes end up doing. One version doesn't work, I go lower, go higher, and one of them will eventually actually stick. You know, too many dependencies. You avoid dependency hell that way. And it does take a little bit because it can't find the image locally, so it tries to find it, then it downloads it. Doesn't take long. Then we can begin the reversing of this binary. Hopefully we have an idea of what it's doing. It's there, quick, there you go, download it, and there, it's built. So we always are at the, there it is, always at the base of the container. We go here, and what I like about this command is that whatever you do here, it also happens in your host. So now I'm gonna install uncompile 6. Let's see it, uncompile 6. There we go. See, so we could just copy that and install it. And let's see if this works. So Python 3, PyInstructor client. Okay, it works. And then now we're just gonna do, forgot what that search said. I think it just said uncompile 6 to clients. I have 2 folders extracted, and I think there it is, client PYC. Oh, okay. I think on the blog I did 3.68, so 3.8 works because that is the version that he used. So there it is. We knew that was the attacker. We got host, port. So the whole code is given to us, and it's pretty simple. So this is the client. So there's a server, hence the name of the channel SeeTwo. So it's while true, so it connects right to the host and port. It receives data, And there it is. It splits the data, the encoded command, right? Encoded image, encoded command. It splits it by 2. So by this string of A's, and then it assigns it to these variables. Here's a key, pretty obvious what the key is here. Then it decrypts the command, which one? The encoded command, this one, with the key, right? Sends it to this function here, and this is just an XOR function. It's in the name, pretty easy. Then it does this decrypted command decode, probably for some, to avoid any like encoding errors. Then it, okay, there we go, sub-process. So then it executes the command on the host. Then it encrypts it back up, encodes it in base 64. Then it does a separator again, and then it joins them. See, encoded image plus the separator plus the encrypted base 64 result, and sends it back. And that's it. That's the whole script. Pretty neat, right? So now that we know that, let's go ahead and look at it. So let's see. What do we know? We know that, so let's look for it. All right. That's the first one. So we know this is the image, right? So let's take this tiny piece. I'm only gonna do the first two because I don't wanna give you all the answers. But it's the same process for all of them. So there, base 64, XOR, it's gonna be a UTF. Get this. And we have ID. Okay. Find the next one. Right here. Let's see what this is. And that's the output. Right. So the user Bella was executed sudo. Okay. So now I believe I can go over to the last one and it shouldn't reveal anything. Let's see this one right here. If it does, at least I'm not revealing all of them. You could just repeat the same process. Look at that. And let's see, where to go? There it is. Stop that. And look at that. It's a cron job that was put. So that's basically it. Pretty neat, that's basically the whole challenge. You follow the same steps in all these. You could even script it if you like, and you will get all the decrypted commands and answer all the questions. So feel free to comment, like, and subscribe. I hope you liked the challenge, and I'll see you all next time.